Do you need encouragement to turn tragedies into your own triumphant life story? If so, this podcast is for you. Listen to powerful guests who have persevered through challenges so you can gain strength to build your championship life. The host of Professor of Perseverance podcast, Dr. James Purdue.
Hey, come on in. Hey, don't take that Doctor too seriously. Hey, don't do it because it's not like I can't write out a prescription to get you any medication, but I can drive you to your local pharmacy if you need me to help you out that way. But welcome to the show. I'm Professor of Perseverance, Dr. James Purdue. Hey, today we're going to talk with a guy, if we need some upbeat, we need life going, it's gone south and we need to move it back up where normal, where we can handle it, do the best we can. Today, we got the man here for you. Hey, what if you're all of a sudden going down the road and you get hit by a vehicle? Well, let's talk to our next guest here and see what happens in life. Welcome to the show, Jimmy Apple.
Hey, James, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm glad to be here with you. And hey, thank you for being on your show last week,
Hey,
an Apple a Day
that was
podcast.
my pleasure. My
So,
pleasure.
hey, everybody get the opportunity, go check out Apple a Day with Jimmy Apple and
That's me.
check it out. So from there. So appreciate you being here again, Jimmy. I tell people, we know our time is valuable. So I'm glad you're sharing your valuable time with us.
I couldn't think of a better place to be right now.
Yeah, appreciate it. Hey, and then we talked last week, and we got talking about what's going on with you. And I said, man, I got to have you on my podcast because we talk about overcoming adversities. And you told me that you got hit by a vehicle. Was it a truck? I think it was.
It was a truck.
And so you go ahead and start your journey with us. Put us in the place where we need to pick it up with you.
I was driving home on a Saturday morning from work, and it was raining, and there was a fella that thought he was at NASCAR with his truck, and he was going a lot faster than he should have been, and he went around a turn and got mixed into a construction zone, got turned around and started coming up the highway the wrong way.
Mm.
And I happened to be going down the highway the right way.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we were on a head-on course. I was in a van, Chevy van, and he was in a big BMW truck. And next thing you know, the two of us kind of meshed together.
Yeah.
And his truck was stronger than my truck. And the last thing I remember hearing was the boom.
Yeah.
And the next thing I heard was a lot of people talking, mumbling outside. And I heard the Jaws of Life motor start up. Next thing I know, I was being put in an ambulance.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember this guy looking down at me, an Oriental fellow. And all he could say was, sorry. He couldn't speak, read, or write a word of English.
This is the guy that hit you.
The guy that hit me.
Okay.
And I could never figure out how he got a driver's license in the state of New York.
Mm-hmm.
And making a long story short, I found out later on when we were in court that he couldn't speak English, he couldn't read English, couldn't write English, and I had to hire an interpreter. I had to hire the interpreter.
Oh, wow.
And I found out that in New York, they gave him the test, the driving test, the written test in Cantonese. And when I said that that wasn't fair, they put me out of the courtroom. Because I was discriminating against him. This is back in the 80s.
Yeah.
I said, how can the street signs aren't written in Cantonese. The stop signs aren't written in Cantonese. The one way,
Yeah.
they put me out of the courtroom.
Mm.
But long story short, I got messed up. I couldn't walk. I got put out on workers' comp at that point. And then they found out that I had the discs in my back and in my neck were destroyed. My hip was destroyed. My knees were destroyed. And they told me I wouldn't be able to go back to work and that I probably wouldn't walk again, which I surprised them. I walked for 10 years and then things got worse. And
Yeah.
long story short, here I am now, and I'm grateful to be alive. And, things can always be worse.
I agree with you. Yes. Things
can always be worse.
You look hard enough, you'll find somebody worse.
Exactly. No matter what, there's somebody right now that wishes they were in my position. So things can always be worse. I'm down to one leg. I have one leg now. I'm blind in my left eye. I'm deaf in my left ear. I've had a couple of heart attacks. I've had 5. I just came out of the hospital after my 5th stroke. 2 weeks ago, I had my 17th catheterization in my heart. I've got 11 stents in my heart. I got a stent in my right carotid artery, a prosthetic in my left carotid artery. But things can always be worse.
I remember one time I was in rehab and I saw a guy, and I'm a spinal cord injury, got my neck broke playing football, and it was a spinal cord rehab. And I remember seeing one guy standing up that was a spinal cord injury. And so I felt bad because I wasn't standing. But then I saw another guy wasn't moving from his neck down. And then I felt bad that I was better than him.
Yeah.
So, so I was happy I was better than him, but I was mad because I wasn't as good as the other one. And so it goes back to the old adage that comparing yourself steals your joy. That saying, the comparison can steal your joy of life. So it's
That's
yeah.
right.
But again, yeah, you're right. You look hard enough, you can find somebody that wishes they was where you're at because they're in worse shape, and they may not be disabled. They just
Right.
maybe because they're homeless or they're going through a battle of cancer they don't think they can handle, or maybe it's a divorce.
Exactly.
So it doesn't have to be you're disabled.
No, people don't realize, they look around and they think they have it the worst. I know when I first was hurt, they made me I had to wear braces on my legs. And I thought that was the end of the world.
Yeah.
And I was throwing a big pity party for myself. I look like Forrest Gump. I had these big metal braces
There
on
you
my
go.
legs. And I was royally pissed.
Yeah.
Excuse my language.
No, it's okay.
I hated the world. And I had to go to this prosthetic place to get the braces put on. And while I was sitting there, I remember this clear as day. There was this little girl bouncing around in the room, in the waiting room. And she came over and she showed me her doll. And she couldn't have been no more than 4 years old. And there's something about a little kid that brightens your day.
Oh, yes.
And she showed me her doll and she was talking and and her mother was saying, "Don't bother the man." I said, "It's okay. It's pretty cool." It made me feel better because I walked in there really mad.
Yeah.
But anyway, they called her back. And then they called me back. And she was in the room to the left of the hallway. I was in the room to the right of the hallway. And the fella came in, the technician, and he was sizing me up for the braces. And I'm sitting there waiting. And he's talking. And all of a sudden, I see the tech come out of the room across the hall. And he's holding 2 legs. That little girl that was bouncing around was a double amputee.
Oh, wow.
And I'm really feeling like crud. And I said to the guy, I said, "That little girl has no legs?" He goes, "Yeah, she's been coming here since she was born."
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that just set the whole picture right in my head. I walked out of there with new braces, and I didn't feel so bad anymore.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know,
kids have a way because they don't understand how bad they really are.
exactly.
You know, they still want to be kids, want to play. But here as adults, we're the smartest people on the world and the planet, everywhere else. But we overanalyze things way too much.
I didn't feel so smart that day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can understand that because, like I said, we think, oh, poor pitiful me, and then here, like I said, you see a child, you know, just having a good old time, just ready to go play. And yeah, we overanalyze way too much in life.
Yeah.
So, hey, a good example I had with a child one time is I was pushing my wheelchair through the store and I went to go put my hand on the wheel to push. And then I felt something there. I looked over there and a little girl was pushing my wheel with me. She was
That,
having to just to helping me out. All of a sudden, mother grabs her daughter and she picks her up and bounces her inside that buggy to sit. And she says, she won't bother you again. So, ma'am, she didn't bother me. I said, she was just curious about the wheelchair and she was actually helping me. I said, well, she won't ever do that again. I said, yeah, you got that right. The way you're acting, she's going to see you the way you're doing, and she's going to think all those people that are in wheelchairs are nothing but evil monsters because the way you're acting.
exactly.
And I say
Exactly.
she was just curious, wanting to help, and then and the mother took off like that. So, hey
Yeah.
Jay, thank you for coming in, buddy. Appreciate it. Hope you enjoy. This is Jimmy Apple, Jay. So,
How
all
you
right,
doing, Jay?
all right. So so you walked. You said about 10 years with your braces. I'm assuming
Yeah.
with the braces, and
Hmm.
then you mentioned later you're a one-legged man.
Yeah. What had happened was I became a diabetic. And because of the diabetes, I got this disease called Charcot foot. And what Charcot foot is your bones become weak. And I had a wound on my foot that I thought was a blister, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
It was on my big toe. You don't think anything of it. But what had happened was I was in the shower, I was washing, and all of a sudden, bam, it broke and it looked like a scene from Psycho.
Yeah.
There was blood everywhere. And my wife's a nurse, and she was trying to get it to stop bleeding. We couldn't get it to stop. We had ended up in the hospital. And
Hmm.
long story short, they put pressure. They were trying to put pressure wraps on it and what have you. And turned out they did X-rays on my ankle, and the bones of my ankle were starting to break down. So they put me into what they call a crow walker boot, and
Hmm.
that's to kind of steady your ankle, trying to keep it as steady as they can, which didn't work. So they ended up putting me in casts, and they had to change the cast every week, and that wasn't working. One night, my wife and I were out. I was in a surgical shoe at this point. We were in Walmart, and all of a sudden there was a snap. Now I had peripheral neuropathy, so I couldn't feel anything in my legs.
Hmm.
But my ankle, instead of being straight, turned sideways.
Mm.
I broke my ankle while I was walking. Couldn't feel it. And again, make a long story short, went to the hospital, went to the doctor, and the doctor said, your leg is imploding. The bones in your ankle are imploding. And they said, if we were to try and reconstruct it, there was too many surgeries you'd have to go through, and you wouldn't survive the surgeries because
Yeah.
of my other conditions. He said, we're going to have to amputate your leg, but below the knee. They amputated my leg. I got a prosthetic. The day I got the prosthetic, though, it was great. They put the prosthetic on. James, they put the prosthetic on. I walked out of the office.
Yeah.
No therapy, no nothing, because I had no feeling to begin with. They put it on. My wife was in tears. I walked out. I drove home from the
There you go. There
Not
you
a
go.
problem. The only thing was, a month later, I had an infection in the residual limb. It was an osteomyelitis. They tried the hyperbaric unit.
Uh-huh.
I was there for 40 days. they couldn't control it. They ended up having to amputate up above.
Mm.
So they did it again. And then I had a stroke, and they gave me the prosthetic above the leg, above
Yeah,
the,
yeah.
and I almost killed myself trying to use it because of the stroke. Couldn't control it. So I'm now wheelchair bound because what's left of my leg can't control the weight of the prosthetic.
Yeah.
And then the several strokes after it, I don't have the capacity to use it anymore.
Yeah.
So now I have a prosthetic leg that makes a nice planter
There you go.
in the corner of the room. It looks like a scene from the Christmas Story, I make a lamp out of it.
There you go. Oh,
But,
yeah, like Christmas Story. Yeah.
Christmas
You
Story.
just said that. Yeah, I just
I'll
saw the
throw-
other day the house that is up for sale from that
Is
movie.
it?
I saw.
Is it?
Yeah, I forgot where it was and how much, but I saw it was up for sale the other day. Hey, now hey Jay, see if you remember this teacher. Jay and I went to school together. Jay, see if you remember this teacher, Miss Cowan, in our 9th grade year, and she was an amputee from cancer. Her leg was pretty much up to her hip, pretty much, and she said one time she got up, her roommate had took her leg and put it on the Christmas tree when she got up for Christmas morning, that her roommate had done that. So you remember her, Jay? Miss Cowan. So, yep, Jay said he remembers her. So,
Cool.
all right. Yeah, she said she was telling that story one day that, that her got up, couldn't find her leg at Christmas morning. And her roommate put it up on the tree. So, all right. Now, Jimmy, let me say, we just met here just last week, really, talking to your show and stuff. And man, the reason I wanted you is not because of just your story, man, just the way you are. I mean, you're so positive, you're energetic. And let me ask this question: was Jimmy like this before all this took place? Did you learn to become more positive? Um, were you the poor, pitiful me type? I mean,
Nah,
what was Jimmy before this? Are you still the same Jimmy that in that concept?
I think I'm the same. I think I'm the same. I've never been somebody to lay down and say, "Oh, poor me."
Mm-hmm.
Never. I this year was a trial though, because I did go through. I had my pity party.
Mm-hmm.
I did, because for a while there I was like, "Why is this happening to me?" You know, I I was seriously mad when it first happened. I the guy that hit me, I had to get over the fact that he didn't go out of his house that day to run me down.
Yeah.
I had to get that out of my head.
Yeah.
But I was looking for blood.
Yeah. Yeah.
When it first happened, because I was on a spiral upward in my career. I was really going leaps and bounds upwards in my career at that point. And I went from making really, really, really good money. I had a company car. I was on my way up the ladder.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I went from climbing that ladder to making $160 a week on workers' comp.
Yeah.
And being financially independent to having to depend on my wife and barely scraping by to pay my rent.
Yeah.
We had just moved into a brand new apartment. We were on the waterfront. It was beautiful. We moved out of an apartment building. We moved into a waterfront walk-in apartment. When you walked out in the morning, you could smell the salt water.
Mm-hmm.
It was beautiful. And now I'm not knowing if I can afford this apartment. It was just it was a disaster.
Well, it adds a different type of stress now.
Yeah.
Physically you're dealing with everything else, emotionally you're dealing with everything else. Now you got to deal with the financial.
Exactly. And I wanted blood from this guy.
Yeah.
I
And
wanted,
that's understandable.
and it was just, it was rough. It was a very rough time in my life at that point.
So how did you get over from not hunting him down then?
Well, number one, for a year I couldn't get out of bed.
There you go. That'd calm things down.
so that so that kind of put another stress on me, because
Uh-huh.
for a year it was festering in me. And
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
thinking
yeah,
to
yeah.
myself, when I get out of this, because I I rode a motorcycle. I was a biker,
Mm-hmm.
and I was paying my rent on my lot for my motorcycle religiously. In my mind, I kept on thinking, I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to get on my bike. I'm going
Yeah.
down to Flushing, Queens. I'm going to find this guy. And, I had it all worked out in my mind.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's the only thing that kept me going.
It goes back, and I'd mentioned this on your show with me, and this sounds a perfect example of the same thing, that I felt invincible is why I felt going this far in life, that I've used that same invincibility. And here it are with you, whether you call it being hard headed, strong headed, invincible, um, what do you want to go back and revenge, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
You know, to me, it sounds more, you had this invincibility and you're still going to live life from there.
Well, you know what did it for me, though? My wife.
Hmm.
My wife has always been my voice of reason.
Yeah.
And she put it in my head. She said, "Do you think this man got up that morning and said, I'm going to go out and I'm going to find Jim and
Mm.
I'm going to run him down?" Because it was burning so bad in me that I was going to give myself a heart attack at that point.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
It was burning so bad that what it was I was scared, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I had nowhere to turn. And this is what prompted me, actually, to start the podcast and my blog and everything else, because I had nobody to turn to.
Yeah.
Everyone I turned to meant well, and they said, sue him. Well, that made no sense to me. Everyone's answer was, sue him, don't worry about it, you'll be better than new. They had no idea what they were talking about.
Yeah.
And I had nobody that had been through anything like this before to talk to. It's like you. Did you have anyone to talk to that had been through what you were going through?
No, when I first got, I didn't where we live. Yeah, I didn't know anybody in a wheelchair has been it's a considered a spinal cord injury, except for one gentleman. I've mentioned him on your show, JT, and I
Right.
met him when I was visiting my grandfather in a nursing home, and he was spinal cord injury, paralyzed in 30 years old or whatever from a car accident. But by the time I got paralyzed, I'm sure he was passed on by then because I never saw him after that. So yeah, like you said, no, I didn't know anybody really.
Right. So, but everyone probably gave you that same advice. Sue him, or don't worry about it, or pull yourself up. Don't worry, you'll be better. You'll come back better than new, and da 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 da. These are the things I heard.
Yeah.
And you know what? They didn't mean a hill of beans. Because all I knew is I was hurting.
Yeah.
I couldn't walk. I couldn't lift my arms. I couldn't do anything. And the thought of suing anybody at that point in my life didn't mean anything to me. All I wanted to know was, what do I do next? How am I going to support my family?
Hmm.
How am I going to keep a roof over my head? Where do I turn? What do I do? And getting a lawyer was the least of my problems.
Yeah.
You're home during the day. You got your choice of 1,500 lawyers if you watch TV, because every other
That's
commercial
right.
was a lawyer.
That's right. That's right.
You
So,
know. So,
well, I'm telling you, I've never been married, so I've never been blessed to have a wife in my life.
right
But I do have a strong-headed mother,
there, you
and
go,
she gave advice like your wife did. And what's your wife's name?
Tara.
Karen. Be sure to tell her
Tara.
to
Tara.
Kara. Be sure to tell her we say hello.
I
And
will.
but I'm sure my mother, like Kara, was giving the same advice. And don't you hate it when they're right?
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, afterwards you sit back and you stool over, and 8 months later you go, I'm glad you told me that. Regretfully you're saying that, but you're glad they did think rational for you.
Exactly. Exactly. And sometimes you need that.
Yes.
You definitely need that. And you know, it's you have to be able to put yourself though in a positive spot. You have to be able to do that. But by the same token, James, you have to be able to allow yourself to have a pity party. You have to be able to allow yourself. You can't pretend to be strong 100% of the time, because if you do, eventually you're going to blow a cork like
Hmm.
nobody has ever seen before.
That's right. That's
You're going
right.
to blow up, and it's going to blow up at the wrong people.
Yeah. A friend of mine, Jan. Hey, Jan, if you come in listening later on. Hey, Jan. Jan's dad used to tell her, and she told me one time that it's okay to visit Pittyville, but it's unacceptable to move in.
That's right. Exactly.
And we're going to throw our little pity parties as life goes on. But the sooner, I told you on yours, I teach the ABCs. The sooner we can accept this adversity, we can start healing and moving forward.
That's right. That's right. Your pity party has to come to an end, like every good party. I've never been to a party that lasts too long, because after a while it gets stale.
Hmm.
A good party has an ending, and when it comes to an end, everyone helps clean up and you move on.
That's right.
So everybody deserves, and when someone gets hurt, everybody deserves a pity party. And you can't stop them from having it, because if you stop them from having it, I'm going to throw you out of the house. You're not welcome at my pity party then.
Yeah, there you go.
If you want to come to my pity party, you're more than welcome. But if you tell me I can't have it, get out.
That's right. It's going on with or without you.
Exactly. You
So
don't have to bring a gift. All you have to do is come and enjoy it with me.
that's right.
You
Yeah,
know?
and even then, when someone's going through their pity party, I don't want to hear you give me excuses on what I need to do next.
No,
Just let me go through my grieving, and then let's get out of it and go. I mean,
that's right.
all I need is someone just sit and listen to me gripe,
Exactly.
and they just nod their head, and then when it's time, like you said, then it's time to go. So,
Exactly.
and yeah, I don't need to hear what you need to say or want to say, because I'm in my mood. I'm in what I want. And
Right.
what you say, we're not listening anyway. But
It's
yeah, but
your
we all deserve that little pity party, and it's going to happen more than once in life.
party.
Yeah.
And you'll cry if you want to.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. You can cry if you want to. That's right. So there ought to be a song like that. Oh, wait a minute.
I
There
think
is.
there is one.
That's right. There is one out there like that. So, all right,
But
Jimmy, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, but people just have to realize that. And it's so
It's
important to
normal.
have it.
It's normal.
Exactly. It's like the 5 stages of grief.
Mm-hmm.
When you get hurt, it's as if you've lost something. It's like a death. And especially like in your case or in my case, when you've gotten hurt to the point that your life has changed, it's the same thing as having a death, and you have to grieve. You don't have to grieve forever, but you have to be able to grieve. And you have to be let alone. You have to be let alone to grieve.
Yeah.
And
I tell people I got 5 birthdays, and one of them was the day that I got my spinal cord injury. That day of being an athlete, being a provider, was all gone.
right,
The day that I was born paralyzed, to be in a wheelchair and do the best I can and accepting help from other people, that day I begin. So it's one of my birthdays. I tell people I got 5 of them.
there you go. There you go.
So
You're like a cat with 5 lives.
there you go. That's right. So All right. So now, Jimmy, let me see here. So how long did it take once Kara said, come on, this guy didn't come out hunting for you that day. How long did it take you to accept that to move on? Because you was on that path of revenge. Like I said, even in your head, may not may not have come out and really happen, but in your head it was there. And like I said, driving that stress level up. But how long did you find when she says that you finally go, yeah, you're right.
It it took me a while,
Yeah.
to be honest. You
No,
know,
yeah.
it took me a while. I'd probably say 6, 8 months.
Yeah.
You know,
Eh,
and I'm not going to lie and say, well, it just popped right out of my head and said, even a year.
mhm.
It was always in the back of my head that, sometimes it might have been gone for a while, and then something would come up, and
Something to re-trigger it.
right, and I'd say, damn, if it wasn't for that guy playing games on the highway that day, I could have done this,
That's right.
or I could have done that. And maybe somewhere in the back of my mind, I might have forgiven him for what happened because it was an accident.
Yeah,
I know in my head it was, but I'll never forget it.
exactly.
I'll never forget. I'll forgive him. I've forgiven him because it wasn't his fault. It was an accident. That's why they make the word accident.
Hmm.
But I never forget it.
Well,
I mean,
that word forgiveness, boy, is a thing of its own as well. I mean, because again, to give this forgiveness is taking, like they say, the guy from living rent free in your head
right.
and all this animosity of getting even, out. So that even the guy that hit me when it broke my neck, uh, I've told people who said, I don't know if I've actually said the word forgiveness, but essentially I have because I say I hope he has the best life possible, you know, and I've only met him one time, and I think I met him one time when I was in the hospital. I don't know if it was him or not. Um, but again, I hope he's had the best life possible.
Right.
So
Well, like even with the lawsuit, when I sued them, the guy had minimal insurance, and it came down to a decision I had to make. Do I want to sue him because he owned the truck
mhm,
and he owned the company? And they said, here's what we can do. He had X amount of dollars in insurance, and they were willing to pay X amount of dollars. And they said, well, what we can do is we can sue him for, I forget how many millions, but you're not going to get it, but they'll put a lien on him for the rest of his life.
yeah,
And at first thought, I was like, put a lien on him. Then I said, I can't make that decision. I have to go home and think about this.
yeah,
And we went home, and I said to my wife, I said, Tara, I said, he didn't come out like you said. He didn't come out that day and say, I'm going to get him. And I can't see ruining somebody's life for the rest of their life. He has a family too. So I decided not to do it. I couldn't do that to somebody rightfully.
yeah.
And then there was times after that I wish I did, but
I hear you. I
you
hear
know,
you. No,
but I couldn't do it. I couldn't ruin somebody's life over an accident.
I I couldn't do it either.
I just couldn't.
Again, it's putting them on that stress for them the rest of their life, knowing whatever's going to be made, $1.50's coming to me. you
Yeah,
know, yeah, because it's
I
going to be so
couldn't do it.
small of amount, you're not even going to really know you got it. And
No,
so, yeah, I couldn't do that either.
it
So
just didn't.
that'd be
It
one
just
of them. That'd be one of them things called a hard pill to swallow.
yeah.
But I think I could choke it down.
Yeah. I just couldn't. I wouldn't want it done to me,
Yeah,
and that's the way I looked at it. And I just couldn't do it. And people told me I was crazy. People told me I was crazy. But think about it. If the shoe was on the other foot, could you imagine going to work every day, and because you had an accident, All right, I may have been a jerk. I was speeding or whatever. But because I had an accident, I got to take a percentage of my paycheck every week for the rest of my life until I hit $10 million or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and pay this other guy because of an accident. I just couldn't. I would, like you said, I wouldn't want to be under that stress.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't do that to another human being.
But then even if you did accept it and then say they're 2 weeks late on a thing because they had some problems and couldn't work, and then you're going, wait a minute, now you're 2 weeks and you're putting me behind, and then you're getting stressed out again. No, I think you made the right decision.
I wouldn't want. I put it this way: I wouldn't go after somebody and say, "Yo, you're 2 weeks late," but just think about them thinking, "Oh no, now I'm 2 weeks late on this."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know,
And they're worrying what's going to be some consequences that may come
yeah.
from this.
And then you're worrying about when's the shoe going to drop on me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I couldn't do that to somebody.
Well, you're a good man on that one. So
I wouldn't say I'm a good man, but
you got a good man, and of course they say that behind all good man's a great wife, right?
exactly.
So, there you
Exactly.
go. Yeah. Hey, Jim, let me ask you this. You said now you mentioned blogging and podcasting and
Mhm.
well, what else you're doing. I find this as talking to you and other people I've interviewed is a great form of therapy for me anyway.
Oh, definitely.
You know, I get to open up, I get to talk, I get to learn from you and others. I find it a great form of therapy as well. So you think your blogging as well with your podcast has
I
helped
don't
you?
I don't blog anymore because I have neuropathy in my hands.
Hmm.
That's what made me start podcasting.
Okay, I got you. I got you.
I used to blog regularly, and I find it I find it very therapeutic. And I love to talk like with you. I mean, we started out, it was going to be a 30-minute podcast, and I think we were on the phone for an hour and a half,
You
almost.
were long, yeah.
And but I learned so much from talking to you. You know, not just on the podcast, but what we talk about before and after
Hmm.
as well. And I take that to heart. I love to learn what other people are going through because it helps me when I talk to other people.
Exactly.
You
Give them
know,
some advice and tell them, hey, I got this other I had through. Go listen to them. Yeah.
exactly.
So,
And
uh,
I love to be able to help others. That's what my whole journey is with podcasting. I love to be able to help other people. I'm trying to give them what I didn't have when I first got hurt.
yeah,
Someone that they can talk to, someone that can give them some information that I couldn't get.
yeah,
Like I do a lot of talking about Social Security disability. I do a lot of talking about workers' comp. I do a lot of talking about where to turn. I've had guests on about an attorney from Social Security disability
hmm,
that wrote a book with questions that you would have
yeah,
about, how to apply for Social Security. I've had doctors on, what you should do, how, when to actually go to a doctor, and what record you should bring to the doctor with you. These are things that I didn't know,
yeah,
and like things like, well, yourself, you get checked on by Social Security disability. Yeah, you ever get that update notice that they send you?
oh, yeah.
All right, when I first got that,
Yeah,
I was scared to death. I
yeah,
had no idea what it was. I was still in bed that I couldn't walk, and they're sending me this update notice.
yeah. Wanted to know if you gotten better.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh my God. And I'm reading this, and back then it was like a book that they sent you,
Yeah,
and I'm reading it, and I didn't get a chance to finish reading it, and they're sending me a second notice telling me it was a warning.
yeah,
I'm like, oh. So then I found out what it was all about. I did it. I faxed it. But now I make it a point to go over that several times during the year for people that might be getting it, so
Mhm.
that they don't freak out, so that they know what it is.
Yeah, especially like you said, a first timer getting in, you're going, "What is what? Oh, no. I'm gonna lose my benefits over what?" Yeah,
Exactly.
and, yeah,
Exactly.
so
So I make sure I make that clear a couple of times a year. I put out an episode about that. And some people might say, "Oh, you're repeating yourself." No, I'm putting it out purposely a couple of times a year
yeah, yeah.
so that people see it. And I get emails from people going, "Thank you so much for that episode."
Yeah, because you do it multiple times a year, because multiple times a year, somebody else is gonna be newly injured or newly
Exactly.
disabled or newly cancerous or newly whatever it is. And yeah, so yeah, I get that's good. I understand that to keep them up. So
Exactly. Exactly. So I just want to, like my first podcast said, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not, I'm nothing. I'm somebody that went through the system. I'm somebody that went through this. I'm just a friend letting you know what happened to me so that maybe you'll be a step ahead when it comes
that's
down.
right. Yeah, because we like I said earlier, we didn't know anybody when we first got hurt.
Exactly.
Now with all this new technology, people are finding out everywhere on whatever they're going through.
Exactly. And this, you know what? There's so many people out there. This bothers me. I listen to so many podcasts. I go on to so many Facebook pages for people with disabilities. And you ever go onto a podcast and you know right away that it's bullshit. Excuse my
Yeah.
language.
No, we're adults here. Go ahead.
And you get on there and it's very somber music, and the guy sounds like he's a $10 lawyer.
Yeah.
Welcome to my podcast, and we're going to speak about, you know, that this guy drives a cab during the day, and he's acting like,
There you go. There you
he's
go.
acting like a lawyer at night,
Living the
and he's talking,
dream.
and he's talking through his ass the whole way
Yeah.
through.
Yeah. 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 Living the dream.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, and he's
Oh yeah.
giving
Yeah. I've heard those before. Yeah.
such bad information. And I'll write to the guy, and he'll write back and say, "Well, thank you for listening to the podcast." Because I'll write to him first and go, "I listened to your podcast."
Yeah.
That's all I'll write. He'll write back, and he's so happy because he finally got a fan mail.
Yeah.
You
There
know,
you go.
and he'll write back, and I'll write back and like, "Where did you hear this nonsense from?"
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
And he'll
Woo-wee.
write back to me. Like he'll go back to me several times, and then finally I just tell him, "Man, you're full of crap."
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he'll stop writing to me.
So
But but you
people
listen,
are amazing.
you'll listen to him, and he'll be there for 5, 6 episodes, and then they'll disappear.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
yeah. People are amazing there, Jimmy.
amazing,
Yeah.
amazing. They're
People are
strange.
amazing.
They're
Strange.
strange.
Strangely amazing. There you go.
I gotta tell you,
Now
I
these
listen.
people, I tell you what, I heard about this group years ago, forgot all about it, and someone brought it up again here. Not to get into a whole bunch of other stuff, but they call themselves uh, trans-abled or trans-disabled, and it's these
Please.
healthy people, but in their mind they think that they're disabled, and
Mhm.
they do stuff to get disabled. They'll get an
Yep.
a leg or arm or hand or something, or they'll do something and get spinal cord injury because they believe that's the way they should be, and
Yeah.
they're perfectly healthy.
Well, there's a. I thought you were going to talk about that group on Facebook. There's something about I got. I don't know why. I got invited to join their group. Join their
There you
group.
go.
It's transabled or trans disabled,
Yeah, it's
but
one of
it's
the
a
two
group.
that I've heard of. Yeah,
It's a group of transgender something or others that are disabled. They wanted to be on my podcast.
hmm
They wanted me to interview them, and I have no problem. I don't care if you want to get tied up and tickle with a feather. That doesn't bother me.
yeah, yeah.
but they're trying to get disability benefits. They're working to get disability benefits for people who are transgender. Well, I don't think that's a disability. I think that's something that you do.
Yeah.
That's not a disability unless you want to classify that as a mental disability.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
don't think it's a mental disability. I think that's something that you decide, or you say you were born that way. All right, you were born that way, but it's not a disability.
Yeah. I don't know if it's classified as a disability, and I don't know.
It's
That's
not
for
classified.
other medical people to make that decision, not for
It,
me.
it's
And
not.
I'm like you. Yeah, I'm like you. What people do, they do.
They
I'm not
do it.
judging. I don't. I
There's
just
no
want to.
judgment.
Yeah, I'm just one of them. Just don't push it on me.
Right. You do
Because
it. You do
I'm
whatever
not
you
gonna I'm
do.
not gonna do my thing on you. He said, yeah. And I hope whatever decision they make, I hope it turns out to be the best decision they ever made.
Right.
But
Exactly.
but
You do. You
but
do you.
that's exactly, yeah. You do you and let me do me, please.
That's
So
it. I
yeah,
don't. I don't care. And if you tell me that you're disabled and that's a disability for you, and you can, by all means, but don't use me as a launch pad for some sort of social injustice or something, because
yeah.
I don't feel it is, and I'm not going to back it.
And
That's
yeah, exactly. There's some people that I'm sorry, but I don't let them on. And there's a lot of people I do put on.
right.
And it's not to say because I don't agree with that doesn't mean it's the wrong thing for them. It's
No,
just not for me.
I
So
don't. If you tell me that you're having a problem, if there's a problem, or something medically that has to do some, if there's a problem, if it's other than you just feel this should be a, a disability. Like I
yeah,
had somebody that tells me that the WHO, the World Health Organization,
hmm
deemed that playing video games is an addiction, and that's a disability. I'm sorry, I don't feel that playing video games is an addiction, and I don't think it's a disability. And as far as I can see, I don't see anything in the Social Security Disability Handbook that claims playing video games is a disability.
no. I can see it being addictive though.
I
People
can
are on
see it
it.
being
People
addictive.
being on that thing 14 hours a day. I can see that, but as a disability, no, I don't see it.
I don't see, and it's the
No,
same thing with this transgender. I looked it up, and I can see it being addictive for some people. I can see it being a way of life for some people, but I don't see it being a disability. I don't see it in the Social Security handbook.
yeah, and again, that goes to more people with better knowledge than I've got of all this and
Right.
training for them to make that decision because I have no idea. So again, I just go back and tell people, you do you, and I hope you got the best decision you've ever made in your life.
If you want to come on and explain why you think it's a disability, I'll listen. I'll listen to anybody. I'm not discriminating against anybody, but I don't know. That just, if you're coming on to make a social project out of it or something like
Yeah,
my podcast isn't the one to do it on.
I agree. I
It's not
agree. There's a million others you can go talk to.
exactly.
So, all right, Jimmy, I think we're going to wrap this on up, man. I'm glad we got to meet here.
I'm glad we got to
You're
meet too.
incredible. Again, I love your attitude and your enthusiasm, man.
I right back at you. Right back at you. You're right up there, James. I mean, professor of perseverance, that you are. That you are.
Appreciate
And
that, Jimmy.
I appreciate you.
And
You're doing a great job out there. I listened to your podcast. I went back and I listened to episodes of your podcast, and I have to say, I'm impressed.
I'm going to go grab some of your 5-minute deals that you've talked about you've been doing here lately,
Yeah,
and maybe take a little idea off of you from there.
Yeah,
So
there's 32 of them up. 32, and there's another one coming out at 4 a.m. tomorrow morning.
there we go. Yeah, I'm going in. So other people, be sure to catch Jimmy Apple on an Apple a Day podcast.
You can
Okay,
go
be sure to
to
check it out.
you can go to www.famousapple.com/podcast. Bring you directly to my podcast page, or you can pick it up wherever you listen to podcasts at. We're on every platform.
There we go. Awesome. Hey, Jimmy, let's finish up here. We know people hurting
Yeah.
and struggling, and if you can give us a positive message to help them get through today.
Hey, listen. No one ever went blind by looking at things from the bright side. So give it a shot.
I was waiting for you to say an apple a day keeps the
apple-
doctor away.
An apple
Keeps
a
Jimmy
day.
Apple busy.
An apple a day keeps you in touch with me.
There you go with Jimmy Apple. There you go.
know it.
All right,
James,
Jimmy,
thank you
appreciate it, buddy.
so much. Thank you so much for having me. And I'll talk to you again real soon, buddy.
Yes, sir. We'll stay in contact here. So hang in there for a minute. Hey, everybody, again, I'm Dr. James Purdue, Professor of Perseverance. Thank you for coming in on the Professor of Perseverance podcast. Share this episode out to someone that needs a good laugh, needs to get a little hyper and get up from their situation. So, hey, everybody, do something today, tomorrow, something next week that's going to help you persevere past your paralysis.